you know.
That's
So
a nice
a
little
couple
dial.
batteries
I
in
like
that.
Okay.
The original leather.
Yeah.
But
That's
this episode,
awesome.
we are not talking about
No,
watches.
we're not talking about watches. Sorry.
What are we telling? What are we
We're
telling
going to be
people
talking
more
about camping
camping?
and all the different styles and types of camping.
Cool. And so I'm very excited about talking about camping because I've only done what I would say are very extreme versions of camping.
Okay, and what are those?
So this past weekend, my wife and I spent one night, not two, one night. There's a story there. Maybe it'll come up. But one night at Asheville Glamping in a beautiful rubber, whatever it is.
No, are those are
Dome.
yurts or are they?
No, I mean it's a modern yurt. It was made. It looks like like the domes on old school kind of playgrounds that kids would climb in and go upside
like
down.
geodesic dome.
Geodesic
Yeah,
domes.
Buckminster Fuller.
Exactly. And,
Yeah.
and then you would.
I know that as an architect.
And
That's
then
the only reason.
you would so then there was this kind of tarp plastic. I'm missing the word for it. Kind of like a pool covering, where it's like rubberized in some way, and like impregnated cloth over half of it, and it's white.
Was it canvas or was it more rubber?
More rubber.
It's probably like a PVC.
Yeah,
or TP,
exactly.
Or EPDM, TPO. Those are all commercial grade roofing membranes.
For sure, one of those, because we had some serious rain on the first and only night, and it was
emphasis on only night.
It was great. It was great. So that is one version, very extreme. Spent a night out. It had a mattress. It had electricity, rope lights.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And then I've pretty much just survived outside. So I've done a number of wilderness survival course things, and I've camped in bivy bags on the ground.
Okay.
Hammocked, but one night I spent out, it was below zero, and I was on a browse bed mattress that I filled with a 2 millimeter thick garbage bag. That was part of the requirement, and we filled it up with pine
You're trying
boughs.
to get a badge, aren't you?
So
that kind of suffering.
So those
you
two
just do for
those two extremes.
For a reason. That's good. Well, I mean, I've done the same. It's that's the so camping. Yeah, it can be anything from cowboy camping where you just lay down on the ground and pile up some leaves, or to the glamping side of things. So
that's so fun. I've never heard of cowboy camping, but I've read a couple cowboy books, and it does sound like they just lay.
Yeah, you gotta put the rope around you because snakes won't
cross the rope.
Cross the rope. That's the story.
I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I believe
cowboy camping is great if the weather is great, and so
seems like it could be.
No, I've done and do the full range, and so it really just depends. So if I'm taking a whole family camping, I'm driving my car to a place. I'm bringing everything. Like I drive a large SUV. I have a big family. And I have an ex-military M101A2 trailer.
Yeah, just
it's a camouflage trailer.
It's just a big, beautiful.
It's
trailer.
awesome.
Cool.
And so I've rigged it out to carry all of the stuff we take camping. And so what you will find is you can be as minimalist as you want, or you can be as maximalist as you want. And it really is about what's the level of comfort you want, and what are you trying to replicate. Because really and truly, when you go to that route of bringing a bunch of stuff to the woods with you, you're just replicating your home in a foreign environment.
Fair.
And so when we'll go, we have one version of our camping is we take cast iron skillets.
That sounds awesome.
And so, but that I'm not hiking a 5-pound cast iron skillet up to the top of some mountain and cooking over an open flame with it. So everything adapts. We're queen size air mattresses. My kids are a little bit older now. They're bigger. I'm
sorry, queen size air mattresses. So my air mat that fills up to this much.
Oh yeah,
is different.
Yeah, very different.
Got it.
Yeah, I've got those too. Those are backpacking. So the car, again, there's no weight limit when you car camp. It's more of a size limit. How much can I cram in my car?
So I'm hearing a little bit of a continuum of stuff from which a term I hadn't heard, but I now am in love with, which is cowboy camping.
Yeah.
And next to that, colon or slash surviving outside.
Yeah.
Right. So just like wildly, no gear, light gear, surviving, to this like luxurious, it's built for you. You just show up.
Yeah.
And then somewhere just before that is bringing
all
civilization into the woods with you.
Yeah, for sure. And Airbnbs, honestly, VRBO, those were the first kind of like people were renting their yurt they set up on their piece of property. And if you don't know, yurt is like this mobile structure that can be quasi-portable. It's a heavy canvas kind of tent, but
a common version of it, which is not the same thing, but people know teepee, like means something in their head. Yurt is a cousin.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah, they're related. And so so people would rent that out. You can go there like you would if you went on a safari in Africa. You're not bringing your air mattress. You're just bringing clothes.
Yeah.
And you show up and everything is set up for you. But yeah, so that is. I have recently, because my children are a little bit older now, they can carry their own stuff. I have taken a couple of them backpacking. I have 3, and I've taken 2 of them. My oldest has no real desire except I think I've found a way to bribe her to do it, to go backpacking and hiking. But so now that my kids are older, I have to bring more stuff even when we go car camping. I have to bring 2 tents because even though we have a gigantic tent, they're staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm old. I'm not doing that anymore.
Like on cell phones or doing like playing like actual.
Oh, they're staying up and doing
games.
stuff. Yeah,
cool.
yeah. I try to
fun.
camp in places that don't have cell phone signal.
That makes sense.
For a reason. So that's kind of like, that's bring everything, replicate your home in a foreign environment. There is just kind of. And that is dependent on time. If you're going to be there for a week, that makes one thing. But if you're going to be over a weekend, then you've got a little more flexibility where you don't have to bring absolutely everything. You can bring a cooler, pre-pack some sandwiches. You can have breakfast. You can have cereal or oatmeal for breakfast, where you just have to boil water and you're not cooking eggs and all the other stuff that you normally would if you stay a little longer. And then if you kind of back that up, then there's the backpacking, the ultralight, minimalist, that you can at certain points have a lot of luxuries that you bring with you, but you have to be very specific about those kind of things.
And I guess the key difference is just how long you have all of your stuff on your back. Like, and for how far?
Yeah. So like a loadout for a 5-day hike is very different than for a overnighter or a 2-nighter.
Yeah.
And also the mileage. So it's one thing if you're going to walk 5 miles with everything on your back, set it down, and then not have to pick it up again for a week.
Yeah.
It's a whole other thing to have to do that every night.
Yeah.
And so that I guess when you look at the spectrum of backpacking to car camping is the time factor. Most of the time, if you're car camping, you're staying a little bit longer. Just, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
so here's a question then.
Yeah.
And I'm going to play the person who's never done this, is interested, and doesn't know how to get started.
Yeah.
Are you going into like national parks, national forests? Are you finding like somewhere online and like selecting, I want campground 17? Or how does it work?
For the most part, you will find hiking and backpacking on state and national forest parks, things like that. Those are trails that have been established and campsites that have been established. You can find those on their website. You can go to White Blaze is a forum for backpackers. There are a number of resources where you can find the hiking component of that, and then figure out how to make it a 3-day hike, 5-day hike, 2-3 month day or 3-month hike. And so, but when it comes to RVs, campsite program campsites, some of them are state run, some of them are private. So the U.S. Recreation.gov is an app you can download where you can go and find state and federally owned camping sites, and you can reserve them, and they're in campground. So this, you would drive your car in, back up to your spot, unload everything, hang out, kind of home base out of that. And so that's an easy way to figure out, okay, in your area, what is available to me. And those are $10 a night or something like
Yeah.
that, pretty cheap. Now, I will say the really nice ones stay booked out for a long time, and the benefit of the pandemic we've been in is that they stopped renting them and they stopped taking reservations, and so everybody just canceled, and they just started opening them back up like last week. So all the
That's so
really
funny.
nice like Cades Cove campground in Pisgah Forest usually is booked out almost a year in advance, whatever the maximum you can do it. And you could have gotten it last weekend if you were quick with the fingers.
Yeah, so we just did. It was supposed to be camping, and it turned into an Airbnb on like a farm with friends from New York. We were gonna find a campground in the middle between us, and we booked it, and then they canceled it, or said that we're not allowed to. Come.
And that
Makes sense.
So I will say, so we're fortunate here in Western North Carolina. We have some amazing trails and national and state parks that we can access just in a 20-minute drive. And some people don't have that opportunity. And also from like access in any modality of camping you want to do.
Yeah.
And I think it's not everyone has that. And so you're limited. I would say, again, because one of the things we try to do is make a big world small when it comes to a topic, is figure out what your options are, what your availability is in your area. If you don't have areas where you can backpack and hike, and you're just trying to do something quick, well, then you just don't go try car camping.
Yeah.
But if you don't have any car camping spots, go try a quick hike.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, it's that's an easy way to find some resource or find areas locally for you that you can either pay to reserve, or like most of the backpacking tent camping sites that aren't in campgrounds are first come first serve. You don't reserve those.
Right. So. So there's two different things that are coming up for me. One is the non-reserved camp spots, meaning like clearly, in the what is it, Goldilocks, and someone is still here, like, and that someone's still so it's like, oh, there was a camp
the ground's
here.
still warm.
You know what I mean? Like there was a camp here, and it looks like it's been built to be a camp, but there's no like reservation process there. And then the other one is a term that some people might have heard, but not necessarily know. Dispersed camping.
Yeah, dispersed camping. Yeah. So dispersed camping is a term for you're just in a big piece of property and you can just find an area to put down that isn't destructive to the environment. Yeah. So that not so much around here. We do have dispersed camping is permitted in national forests. So when we have the Shining Rock Wilderness here in Western North Carolina, that one is national, so it has dispersed camping is allowed. So if you can find a place, you can camp there. It's big. It's much bigger out west, where their national forests will be in the thousands, 10,000s of acres, where there's just so much land that people can just pull over on the side of the road into a field. And so that's really kind of dispersed camping is how that works. And it's free. You don't have to pay for it. There are areas where
with your taxes.
With your taxes. So, I mean, we're all landowners. I mean, that's the beauty of the national park system is like, it's ours. We pay for it. It's yours. It's mine. The rangers are federal employees. I mean, they're paid for through tax dollars. And so it's go out there and use it. Like, it's beautiful. And I have not spent enough time out west in their I have a 6 to 7 week plan if the pandemic shuts us all down again and we all go home. I've just got an RV. I'm gonna buy an RV and we're just gone. Like, if my kids are gonna
being an RV salesman right now is probably really
it's really easy. Yeah, the whole little COVID mobiles is what they call them, and so you put your family in there and drive them around. But no, it's just to take the ubiquitous 6 to 7 weeks and go out west, hit Yellowstone, Tetons, Yosemite, Arches, Zion, Grand Canyon, those kind of things. And so because that stuff, depending on where you live, I mean, it's unique, and it's funny. Like I've visited a few of them, and what's cool is like some of the property you look around and you're like, yeah, no one could ever have developed this for houses. So the national, so the government was like, let's just claim it as ours and then charge people to enter it. That's how we'll make money off of it. And so like Arches is just so hot. It's so, it's just barren. There's nothing you could ever do out there other than make it a national park and charge people to enter it. And so
funny.
But it's beautiful. And so but the dispersed camping kind of happens more out there where there's more land and it's a little bit flatter. Campsites along trails. So if you think of like big trails like the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail, so the AT, the PCT, and the CDT are the three. Those are the triple crown in the backpacking world of the big long trails. And then that being said, there are numerous other smaller trails that aren't as famous but just as fun. So there's kind of assumed camping spots along the way where people have been using them for years. And so some of them will have, like on the Art Lobe Trail here in Western North Carolina, that's a 30 some odd mile trail. There are 2 built shelters. So if you go, and they were erected sometime in probably the 80s and haven't been touched since then, and they're not in the greatest shape, but they're a shelter. You can camp, you can sleep in and under. They have usually some source of water from a creek or stream that's been piped or channeled. Some of them will actually have bathrooms, like little
outhouse kind of thing.
Yeah, they'll just have a toilet sitting on a throne, and it's really nice. Sometimes they've been locked lately because of the pandemic. So you kind of plan when you're looking how much mileage you want to do in a day. Where are my options to camp? Because what the real bummer is, and what you don't want to do, is like you realize you just hiked 4 miles past the campsite, and you realize my next one is another 4 miles. And it's like 5 o'clock at night, and you're just like, because you passed the previous one at, I don't know, at like 2 o'clock, and you're like, I don't want to stop yet. And then you realize, it's 8 miles to the next one, but you didn't realize that until you're 4 miles into that trip. And
that's a proper planning prevents.
Well, that's exactly. And so, but everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and so. I think that you have to have those moments to be a legitimate backpacker, and so you don't usually. And I would say the equivalent for car camping would be like you show up and your campsite's has been rented before you got there, or you show up and it's not as big as you think it is. Like part of the problem with camping with as many people as I do, and how much stuff I bring is like sometimes we don't fit on some campsites. Like I have a REI Kingdom 8, which is an 8-person tent, and then I have a garage attachment to it that we keep all the bikes and everything. And so if it rains, they don't get wet. That damn thing's like 20 some odd feet long. It's like 25 feet long with everything attached. So it takes up something.
People garage.
Like if you're not like again, that's if you're an equipment person, you can buy all kinds of camping equipment. And so but I'm that family. When we roll up, like we got the stuff. Like I have a bag, like I have a fold out. REI doesn't sell it anymore, but it was an outdoor kitchen, and you like, and it's like this platform. It's multi-leveled. It's got like tiers, and it's like hanging stuff, and it's designed to put your big stove and hang your pots and stuff.
So funny. My dad used to say when we would go to the New Jersey shore, every time we were packing up, he'd joke that we were the Beverly Hillbillies because we had stuff falling off the top of the car for the 300 miles that we're driving.
So what was camping?
We didn't have anything close. I convinced my parents to buy a tent when we were kids. We put it on the back porch maybe once.
Okay. Wow.
That
was it?
As a kid. Yeah. I think I went over friends' houses.
Because upstate New York's beautiful. I mean,
it's for sure. We never did.
Went.
And that's one of the things. Like you are the thing that I've recognized is that like most people, and I can only speak for myself. I am the result of my parents' interests.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so parents liked sports. I played a lot of sports.
Okay.
Parents didn't read much. I didn't read that much as a kid. Like my mom read. So it's like the things that I know, like I don't know mechanics. I don't know plumbing. I don't know, because like that wasn't stuff that was solved for in the house that I grew up in. Even better, get to, wear them when I'm 31. And so figuring some of this stuff out now that might have been interest or just like not big enough that I, made it a huge deal that my parents had to figure out. I have so much empathy. I have no idea what it's like to be a parent yet. I can't imagine me as, trying to play the role of my parents and like weigh all of the interests.
You will be
that
your
I
father.
Had.
That's how it usually happens.
Weigh all the interests that I had and like figuring out which one's actually the real one. And so it's hard enough for me to try and figure out which of my interests are real interests. Yeah. I can't imagine that, and then the amount of money I must have cost my parents. Like I can't imagine running the numbers on the tent that we bought that I never used as a kid. Like how many of those happened?
Yeah. Kids are the worst.
Camping wasn't a thing that I did as a kid. My first time, I think, spending a night. I mean, outside of like, the closest thing to camping was I think my friend had a beach house. I slept on the porch.
Yeah.
In
That's okay.
college. Got a bunch of mosquito bites and I was like,
So what has stirred the idea of camping in you then, if you had no experience of it as a child?
My favorite moments in adolescence were moments at night in more remote places where I get to see stars that I didn't see in a very light polluted northeastern state.
Okay.
And so the beauty of nature and the abundance and the crazy scale of some things have really ticked that for me. And then there's this, what is the first versions of camping that I did was surviving outside. And so then there's this version of me where it's like, if you haven't even checked this box, you don't want to have to check it when it's when something's happening
in an emergency situation.
I don't want my first nights out in the cold to be when our car breaks down, I say I'm going to walk into town, and I'm like, I couldn't even.
Guess I'll just die of hypothermia.
Yeah, why haven't I tried this?
Yeah.
And I don't know. So there's the very beautiful and romantic version of what camping could be.
Yeah.
And then there's I'm trying to limit downside risk here, and let me understand what it's like
to be uncomfortable.
To put 16 miles on your feet and then fall asleep and try and do it again the next day.
Yeah. Okay. And I think when people, I can say my conversations with some people who have never been any type of camping, whether that's car camping or backpacking, they tend to think in their mind along the backpacking route, like it's you and carrying all your stuff and you're just going into the woods.
Yeah.
Most people, they can understand the idea of car camping because you've tailgated or you've gone to a party or you've gone on vacation. You've had to pack all your stuff up in the car. Yep. It doesn't all fit, or you overpack or you underpack, and so they have some type of reference. Most people do not have a reference for everything that like if you're going on a 3-day trip, a 3-day hike, your world is on your back. Everything that you own and everything that is you is like you're carrying around in a bag.
And the difference between 40 pounds and 36 is massive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and so that's just a math problem. Yeah. So if you've got to go 30 miles and you're carrying an extra 5 pounds every day for 30 miles versus, taking that 5 pounds off your back and how you feel, not a huge deal. People who are doing, section hiking portions of some of the trails where they're out for a week at a time, that starts to add up. People who are out there for weeks at a time through hiking the AT or whatever, that's a very real concern. Every pound matters. And so it has to be considered. And I do want to be clear about one thing. I will never be an ultralight backpacker. I weigh 228 pounds. It doesn't matter if my pack weighs 5 pounds. I'm never going to be ultralight. I'm never going to be the 100 and, it just doesn't matter. And so I make decisions. And
you creature comforts. You've communicated that's important.
No, absolutely. I am older now. I have a little bit of wisdom, and so the extra pound. So like I did.
So we have some show and tell. And so this is a great thing. One of the things I'm thinking about is, all right, so let's just say that we have someone who's going, all right, well, this is true. Where would I start? It sounds like if you have a car camping is the easiest place
Oh,
to start.
absolutely. I have a friend. She rigged her Honda Element to go live in Alaska for about 6 months. She just she just took a couple of pieces of wood and some plywood that she found laying around in West Asheville, built a little platform, threw a sleeping bag in the back and air mattress, and that was it.
Wow.
And so,
That's the way to go.
yeah. Oh, that's the easiest form, because you don't have to worry about learning to hike. You don't have to worry about the skill.
Yeah.
You can just back your spot, and if you find some of the right campgrounds, you can get some really stunning views, just like right where you park.
Yeah. And I'm reading Into the Wild again, and so he
they just flew that bus out.
Did they
like
really?
last week? Yeah,
Wow.
or last month. Yep.
So he just got his car washed out by the flood at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But that's very interesting. The idea of car camping and how, the car is probably the ultimate tool. Other thought, I just rode a BMW adventure bike.
Yeah.
The idea
motorcycle
of motorcycle camping.
Oh, that is nice. That is, especially on the off-road side of things. Like I've done it a few times, like touring around on the road from campground to campground, or dispersed camping. But yeah, that has always been something that has excited me. Of like, oh man, I would love just to spend all day, because there's a Trans American Trail.
Okay.
That's you can get from basically East Coast to West Coast and never touch a paved road.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. I do know that there's a couple like adventure bike tour companies that have these kind of set up routes and all the gear, and you can rent. I had a buddy that did it through like the Redwood Forest in California, or maybe it's not California, maybe it was the Tetons, but it was like unreal, his photos and videos, and they brought like a video crew for whatever version of the adventure that they went on, and so they have like this sick highlight video.
I will say though, that's like the target demographic for that is very, very narrow.
Yeah, but they also tend to have some disposable.
Oh, they have a lot of most of the people who ride those big adventure bikes have disposable income. So
alas, all right. So I'm interested.
Yeah.
V1, and then what's the gear? What
all right, so
should I be thinking about?
So if you want to go car camping, just start for an overnight, and that's the easiest thing.
Is that like you're bringing your own aero bed from home and like inflating it?
Go to Wally World, Costco, whatever you can find, and get a $15 Inex inflatable air mattress with the $15 inflator. And Costco actually has a really great quilt that's actually pretty highly regarded in the backpacking world. It's like a 40-degree quilt. I think it's like $60 or something like that. So it's a summertime quilt, but it's down. It packs down really nice.
Cool.
And then just go and cowboy camp. So if the weather's great, blow up the air mattress. Make sure you get the inflator that is the car adapter or has the batteries, because there is nothing worse than getting out there with a giant air mattress and realizing you have the wrong inflator, which I'm not saying has happened to me, but you can use car exhaust to inflate it. I wouldn't recommend it.
Oh, goodness.
But you can anyway.
Yeah.
That's a whole separate
So inflators are important.
Yeah.
Are these the kind that have like the built-in, these are
backpacking things. And so the idea is like, this is what someone who is through hiking a trail would carry. This is a 20 by 72. This is not an ultralight version of that, but it is a weight-conscious version.
Yeah.
And that thing's like less than a pound.
Yeah.
But the problem is...
insulated.
I'm a heavier guy. I'm a side sleeper. So, which means I need a thicker pad to keep me off the ground. And because I side sleep with my arm out, I've tried sleeping on my arm's just like hanging out. Yeah. And so this is what I carry.
First of all, we got to have an episode on sleep.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm a huge, sleep is like, and so that's the thing. Like, there has been a transition in probably the last 4 or 5 years in camping, and through hiking, especially when it comes to sleep, because you can only go as far as you can recover from what you did. And so people like are starting to take their sleep very, very seriously. And there's a guy I'm a fan of on the YouTubes, Dan Becker, and he he inspired me to bring your noisemaker. If you try to replicate how you sleep at home, because if you
noisemaker into the woods,
if I know, right?
Come on.
And so if you are if you're sleeping well, you're gonna be better.
Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready
every
to take
sense
on
of the
day.
word. If you get like 2 or 3 bad nights on a through hike back to back, you're just gonna be a miserable troll, and you're gonna hate it. So he takes 2 inflatable pillows and his noisemaker into the woods.
Well,
and
what
so
do you know?
and so what he inspired me to do was to pick up this guy, and this pad is basically a pound extra. And this one's 20 inches wide. This one is 40 inches wide. So this is technically a 2-person tent.
Yeah,
excuse me, 2-person mat.
Inflatable air mat.
Yeah, and it will.
Do you know the R? Because
so this is a R8.
Whoa.
So this was so this is the Big Agnes Q Core SLX. So this is about as insulated as this is a 4-season pad.
Yeah. Holy smokes.
This one is insulated, but it's not as rated as this one. I think this is like a R.
So I remember I've done the research on it. I don't remember what R stands for anymore, but it's a calculation of the material's ability to maintain heat.
Yep.
And
So
hold it.
to give you a quick idea, most walls and houses are R19. That's the minimum building code.
Who would have thought that it's also part of homes? I just think this is a
Yeah.
thing. All right, so R is it used universally in insulation?
There's 2 factors.
math.
So there's R value and U factor, and they're related because U factor is represented as a decimal, so it's like 0 point something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and all that is if you divide 1 by that number, you get the R value.
Huh.
And so it's easier to see because it's hard to understand the difference between R9 and R10 just mathematically when you're running calculations. So you use a U factor instead, and you can get that decimal.
Well, what do you know? So for context, laying on the ground, your body is 98 degrees. The ground could be 50 degrees. Yeah. And so there is a constant flow of heat from your body to the ground.
It's just a big heat sink, and it sucks you dry. And
so that was my night of surviving in this wilderness survival course was how do I create space between my body and the sub-zero ground in the beautiful Adirondack Mountains. And the answer was by, filling it with as much pine boughs as we could.
Yeah.
And then like crunching up, but then also staying spread out enough so I don't plow right through it. You need like a foot of pine boughs to get about 2 inches or an inch of separation. It was nuts.
Yeah. So the environment you're camping in does determine what you bring. Like you have summer bags and winter bags, and the amount of stuff we bring for winter trips to car camp is drastically different than summer camping. And because of that, but if you're trying to camp, if you're trying to backpack or camp in some extreme weather in hot or cold, you just avoid that until you get your feet underneath you.
That makes sense. Now, the one thing I've also recognized or come to learn is that it seems like it's better to trend towards a colder night than a hotter environment. If only because there's like way less bugs typically when it's cold. And the vegetation on the trails or the paths that you might be walking on is lighter when it's not the summer.
Yep. It's true. No, completely true. So that's why spring and fall are the great times, and that's where you'll see most people out, because you can get warm enough days during the day that it's comfortable to hike and play. At night, it's cool. It can get cold. It can get cooler, but not cold.
Yeah.
And so that way, it's comfortable to sleep. You're not worried. You're not worried about if you bring the wrong bag, suffering through the night, just being cold and chattering. Versus, you're camping during the peak of summer. It's just around here. It's just humid. Buggy, poison ivy everywhere. So poison ivy, yeah.
Leaves of 3.
Let it be. Listen, and I've gotten poison ivy so many times in my life that I get what's called a systemic reaction to it.
Huh. Like
if my body senses, we got the ivy, it like the histamines in my body go nuts, and I'll get rashes in places that didn't even touch. Whoa. The poison ivy.
They say poison ivy has memory, and so I guess that's what it's talking about.
Yeah, and so it's like it goes to the hot spot, so it'll go behind your knees, It'll go to the inside here. It'll go like.
You have any witch doctor remedies that have worked for you, or is it just time?
It's just time. I mean, honestly, so I did as a sidebar, I did a little research because I do get poison ivy.
Like every year?
Easily, yeah. And so it wasn't always the case, but it seems it's gotten worse as I've gotten older. And so I did a lot of research on you just can't keep from brushing up against it, but what do you do if you do that? And so it is an oil, whatever the
ivy's an oil.
Yeah, it's the oil that gets on your skin. It gets absorbed into your skin, and that becomes the irritant. So the idea is you need to get the oil off your skin before it absorbs it. And so soap, just regular old soap. But the most important thing is is something to scrub it with. The mechanical action, much like dealing with the
COVID.
The
what
COVID.
are the chances? That's what I'm saying. Like you're telling me that. So, and I find it so funny because some
assuming washing helps, but. We'll assume washing.
You assume it's it's like an M. Night Shyamalan type of movie where it's like, what is the thing that kills the aliens? It's our germs.
Yeah, it's our germs.
It's like,
fighting the war for us.
All the aliens needed was soap. You kidding me?
That'd have been just fine. But yeah, so that's it's the soap, but the mechanical action of washing it and drying it off is really what will help you with the ivies.
All right, that makes sense to me. Cool. So we have ground mat.
Yeah.
What's your take on closed cell foam? So like one of the things I'll go to like a TJ Maxx and they have like fitness section and there's some foam roll-ups and I'm like, I mean that's $9.
Yep. Yeah.
And
I bet the Walmart pad.
I bet you that's doing something.
Oh yeah.
To create some space.
So so you have to balance. So some of the things. So lighter sleepers can sleep on thinner things because they don't need as much support unless especially if you're a back or stomach sleeper. If you're a side sleeper, you're concentrating all your weight basically on your
surface area.
Yeah. But those are great, and some people will actually bring the foam pads, some version of the foam pad, either the cheap Walmart, Hobby Lobby kind of things, or the really nice Thermarest waffle ones, and they will put that underneath their sleeping pad to increase the R value of it, just to get that better separation from really cold ground to your body.
All right, that makes sense to me. So step one, think about space between the ground and your body. Ooh, what about this other option for space? Hammocks. You're not a hammock. You don't seem to be a hammock guy.
Oh man, listen, those hammock campers, as I like to refer to them, they refer to us as ground dwellers, and so. It is a divide. I will say there have been times in my life when I am curious about hammock camping.
So you've never done it?
I've never done it. I have been told that once you dial in the system, that it is a great night of sleep. And so, and honestly, when you boil it all down, like you have to, your systems are the system that carries you and transports you on the trail. So your backpack and shoes. And everything you use to hike.
Yes.
There's everything.
Which is walking sticks, which we've decided are essential.
They're mandatory. I talked mad crap about walking sticks. Like, oh man,
you couldn't be dorky or looking.
No, only old people use walking sticks. And I did the Art Loeb with my buddy, and every review was like, you have to have one. I was like, fine, I'll get some. Change my whole. There's a reason why quadrupeds
or horses, donkeys.
Yeah, they're way better on the trail than
on the West.
Yeah, right.
But it's amazing to me. Yeah. I also thought that they were dorky. I didn't get it, and then I saw a pair on Craigslist for like $20. They were carbon.
Life changing.
I got them.
Yeah.
And now they're in the car just in case I ever need.
Oh yeah, anytime I have to walk with a backpack on, I'll take just one.
Yeah,
because you just brace against it. So, So if you get your transportation system and carrying system, you get your food. Let's just say I want to do food hygiene. So that's your toiletry kit, water, cooking, kitchen. So all of that.
Weight adds up real quick in that kit to me.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sorry for jumping in, but in the hygiene and cooking kit, are there any things that a novice might overlook or undervalue that stand out to you?
I would say, yeah. So the big one is the water filtration. There are a million options out there, some of them from light to heavy. I use this. I use a Sawyer
that's
squeeze.
Robust looking.
Oh, this is what.
That's the Sawyer squeeze. There you go. Cool,
but I bought a couple of accoutrements that allow me to attach it to a smart water bottle, so you can just carry those. So that way you don't carry an insulated Now you don't have to carry some insulated type bottle. Those are a total waste on the trail because you're not getting cold water and you're not getting real hot. Coffee.
And the thing that I've heard in the survival world is that insulated doesn't do you any favors because you can't reheat in that container.
Anything.
You can't use it to sterilize.
Exactly.
It becomes a local bomb. Acts like popcorn.
That's exactly right. So the water. You don't need a big giant water filtration system. I carry mostly at any given time 1 to 2 liters of water, depending on, because that's
weight.
Heavy.
Yeah.
That's weight. I mean, the heaviest thing you can carry is the shame of not having enough water, and the second heaviest thing you can carry is too much water. So
that's really good.
So I mean, these things are relatively inexpensive, actually. This little thing right here, I know you can buy for $30.
Yeah. So I don't have that. I have a Sawyer Mini, which seems like the step down.
Yeah, the micro. This
Sure.
is the Mini. You have the micro. This is smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that one clogs up super fast because it's designed basically to you put
need
it
to squeeze through it.
Yeah. Well, it's designed so that you can hook it up in line through like a bladder and drink through it, so that the flow rate, like this thing will fill a 1 liter bottle in 10 seconds.
Oh yeah, not that.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
And then when you talk about heat and cooking and kitchen, so there's a lot of different styles. I lean jet boil. I think they're great. I think the versatility of that. There are some people who like to use the Toke's titanium cups, and then they bring just a canister of fuel. They have a little small screw-on burner and put that on top and cook in. That's what my buddy Nick does, and some other stuff. It has some limitations. I'm sure he'll
like
he
an
would
altitude thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just if it's windy and you're cooking on your only container, or you have to bring another cup, but it's a great system. Lots and lots and lots of people use them.
Yeah.
So you'll typically find that most people steer toward a cook system like a jet boil or something of that style, and then there are people who are just open flame, where they're just screwing a burner on top of fuel and then cooking in a pot or something like that, a little small cup.
And the difference between that and throwing a ferro rod fire and starting this little local fire, honestly, to me, like, because I've done that to get a water to a boil. The difference is sometimes hours.
Well, and so you have to hike your own hike. That's a popular saying. So if you want your hike to include creating fire from nothing, do it. You just have to know that it's important to be aware that if there's not that much dry stuff around, it's super windy, it's raining.
Yeah.
Like you might be cold soaking your food that night.
I went to a school in the Hudson River Valley that taught ancestral skills, and the language that the school uses is requesting fire. You don't make fire.
No, it's like fishing.
You request.
There's
fire.
no guarantee. That's awesome. That's great. I will tell you this. Much like Paleo Man would have eaten a donut if he came across it in the wild.
Yeah.
The only reason Paleo Man did not eat a donut is because it wasn't available to him.
Yeah.
If he would have, or if he or she, if they would have come across something where they could have hit a button and started a fire, Paleo would have been all about that.
For sure.
Because and so you have to understand what is it you want to get out of it. And so there's a whole section of bushcrafters.
Yeah.
And bushcrafting is like my uncle Alan, who was taught survival school in Army to Army Rangers.
Cool.
And go camping with him. He's taking a knife and some rope, and that's about it. And
hard to make a knife in the wild.
No, very hard. So it's you can bushcraft and go out there and get all those, and it's going to take you just a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That was probably my first YouTube deep dive was into this bushcraft world.
Oh man.
There's this guy in England who now lives in Sweden, MCQ Bushcraft.
Okay.
The sweetest heart. And he just like went out and would film himself.
Okay.
That was a deep, deep, deep dive of YouTube that took me a long time.
Well, ultralighters and bushcrafters have a little contentious relationship.
So I would believe that. But I also think that in some ways they're doing similar things where like a bushcrafter says like, give me an axe and a knife,
Yeah.
and I can go out there ultralight. And then, an ultralighter is saying, give me high speed.
Give me $5,000.
Yeah, give me some high speed materials and carbon fiber, nets, and I can also camp ultralight. And I think, to your point, I think it is like, hiking your hike or camping your camp, because there's no wrong. And we said this in the motorcycle episode. A cruiser versus a street bike, there's no wrong in those
there's
two.
no wrong. Yeah, just get out there and do it.
And figure out which one's for you.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking forward to car camping. I'm looking forward to also doing some backpacking. One of the things that got me real excited was being as close, as you said, as we are to these incredible mountains and national parks and national forests that give us the opportunity to figure out what type of hike we want to hike.
Yeah, and it's true. And I will say, backpackers and campers are very, like, they'll give you everything.
Yeah.
Just find somebody and ask, and go with them, and they're like, oh, I got this, I got extra of this, and so
like someone who's and most of these things that we're going to talk about, and someone who's enthusiastic about the space often has older versions of also great.
Oh no, I got I got two.
Got a med kit.
I got my med kit, which is an important thing. You need something that has so this has been modified just a little bit. And again, you can find all of this stuff online, but this is just one you can pick up online, REI, something like that, little single use or single person, multiple use kit. Most importantly, it has a little mini Bic lighter in it. It has some moleskin, Band-Aids.
It's the blisters.
The blisters are
Put
real.
you down, and it's the infection in the blister.
Yeah.
It's the pride of not checking it out. No, I'm good.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you get an infection.
Yeah.
Infections can move fast depending on who you are and what you're set up like.
Yeah. Yep. And the environment you're in.
Yeah.
So, sorry, get back to real quick. To get back to the couple of elements. Yeah. So we have the transportation, storage. We have the cooking, kind of personal hygiene, getting from the med kit, like the water, the medical, the toiletry bag, and your camp kitchen. That's like taking care of me kind of stuff. Then you get into your sleep system, and that is your sleeping bag or quilt. That is your sleeping pad. If you like to use a pillow or not, they have inflatable. I'm not ashamed to admit this, I bring an inflatable, and I have a memory foam pillow that you can compress it in the bottom of your bag. And then you have your shelter, and that shelter, that can be your hammock, that can be a tent or anything like that. And so and those type of system and those kind of categories of system apply through backpacking all the way through car camping. Like I have my storage and transportation for car camping. I have these giant wheeled plastic bins that are made by Plano that are awesome. And I have 8 of them, and I have them just stacked up, and they stack on top of each other. They fit inside my little military trailer, and I close the lid on it, and I just drive off. And we get there, here's
the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. And so
and when you're in a backpack, ideally you would have some sort of waterproof, roll sack top, and their components, their compartments, right? Like you would have a med bag like you had.
Sometimes it depends. So again, that gets to like how I'm a very kind of like category person, so I like to have everything in these plastic bins.
Yeah.
Some people just like to have one giant bin, and so some people will take, like how I pack my bag is very different than how someone else would pack their backpack. In general, we are all probably putting our sleeping bag or quilt in first. We're probably putting a tent, anything you need at the end of the day down at the bottom.
Right.
You put your heavy stuff in the middle toward your back. So your food, your kitchen, usually what those are. And then you're putting everything you might need to access throughout the day on top.
Clothing, rain, gear.
And so
food.
Depending on who you are as a person, you might have all of those in individual bags. Or you might just have them as just inside one bag, and they're just packed tightly. So the grams turn into kilograms. And so if you've got 5 bags and each bag weighs 10 grams, then, those things start adding up.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's you just have to understand that doesn't matter to me. There's no amount of weight shaving is going to make me less than 250 pounds on the trail.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't do it. And so,
So
yes.
you're looking at shoes and hiking poles is the name of the game, and a good belt system.
Yeah. So that's the other thing a lot of people don't know. No one hikes in hiking boots anymore. Everybody uses shoes. So either trail running shoes, or just regular old tennis shoes, just depending on what the trail is you're going to be hiking.
Newsworthy.
Yeah, and so you don't need a 5-pound, 3-pound pair of boots.
And that's just for like hip flexors and your
well,
butt,
so the boots were originally meant to give you ankle support,
which is a failed.
Yeah, it doesn't
notion
really
at this
do that, and so it has been talked about in that it gives you maybe a false sense of security. I will say though, if you're carrying a super heavy pack for a distance, having the cushion and the structural integrity of a boot can be an advantage.
Yeah, I've heard it's less foot flexion, and at the end of the day, most people's feet aren't used to taking on that much of a burden.
Oh yeah, you're just walking around with weight on your back, and there's no way to train for it.
Go ruck.
Yeah, other than just doing it.
Yeah,
and so you just put a weighted backpack on and just go for a walk and climb up something, climb over something. But yeah, it's a completely different muscle group, and most people find that trail running shoes are lighter, more grippy, and at the end of the day, don't wear them out as bad as boots. So
believe it.
Yeah, that's kind of the big categories, and the kind of, let's talk about shelter. And so your shelter is dependent on how many people you want to put in there. You want to be a hammock. You want to be a ground dweller. You want, you can get like these. Like my 2 tents are from Tarp Tent, so they're a single wall tent. So it's just one piece of fabric between me and the elements, and it's waterproof. It's made out of sil poly. Some of the newer fabrics are like Dyneema and Cuban fiber, and they are ultralight but super delicate. Like. They cut really easily. They burn really easily. I will say, hands down, the best thing you can do is go on Amazon and you buy the 4-person Coleman tent. That it's got like 12,000 5-star reviews, and I have friends who have backpacked with that tent. It's like 3.5 pounds for a 4-person tent. So if you're going with somebody and it's 2 of you, you split the poles and the fly in one, and the other person carries the body.
Classic military maneuver.
Yeah, it's not that bad. But that tent is, I own that for my children. That's what they sleep in when we go car camping. Yeah. And so look at that and figure out like how big it is you want to do. And that tent's like $60, $70 is super cheap.
I think that if there's a thing that I want the message to be, is that while I love gear and I will go deep down gear rabbit holes, you don't need to break the bank to test it out.
No,
you
can
feet wet.
Yeah,
to do it the first time.
No. There are very famous YouTube videos of people going to Walmart and spending like $300 and getting everything you need to go backpacking. So
it's not the gear, though it eventually will become the gear and an obsession.
Oh man, you can then if you're a weight weenie, you can go to Lighter Pack. I think it's .com, and you can weigh all of your items, and then you can start tallying them up. And then if you have multiples, you can start, okay, what does this pack loadout look like? What does this pack loadout look like? And then you share it with your friends, and you start competing. And then they start lying about what they're actually bringing, and they're like, oh, my base weight's 12 pounds. Oh, I got my base weight to 9.
And the base weight is bag, sleep system?
Yeah,
and
tent.
And tent.
Yeah, the big 3. So that's it.
Sleeping bag and tent.
Yep.
Love it. People, tip of the iceberg. We've only just started.
It's so much. It's so big. But the thing to take away, just get out there.
Yeah.
Find somebody, ask them, and say, hey, let's talk about it. And
let's put something on the calendar. Let's go. Disperse camping, first time. Survival camping.
Don't do that. You got to make it an enjoyable experience. So don't set yourself up for failure. If you're listening to this podcast in December, wait a couple of months, no matter where you are.
I'm not sure that that's true, people. I've gone, so there's no version of camping that I'll ever have that's worse than the ones that I've already had.
That's a good point.
And so there's no matter how you slice it, if you go out in the woods, I think it'll be okay. People have been doing it for a long time. That's what I keep telling myself. Like everyone, like people have been doing this for a long time. But yeah, the silence in the middle of the night, if you're out there camping alone.
That's why you bring in a noisemaker.
Bring the noisemaker. Love it. All right. My favorite kit piece that I had that I didn't think that would be my favorite is an actual candle. Yuko candle lantern.
Oh.
I'll put a link on it. It's absolutely fantastic. It was the best like $17 pickup.
I'm excited about that.
Yuko candle lantern.
Okay.
It's a little taste of home. All right, people. Until next episode.
Thank y'all.
It's been a blast. We will talk soon. Episode 4.